I tell you what, Walker Little has a chance to do some big things this weekend and in the preseason. We'll get to it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, what's up? I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. We're at your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Quick reminder, wherever we're available, you need to be there. One of those places is YouTube. That's right. Go over to Locked On Jaguars YouTube page and make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button while you're there. And then after you do that, make sure you hit the bell so you receive notifications each and every time we drop an episode. And if you listen to audio podcasts, wherever you do that, make sure you tap in. If you're at work, driving your car, tap in. Wherever you get your podcast, make sure that you at least listen to Locked On Jaguars each and every day. That's right. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And shout out to the everydayers that join us here every single day. You can be an everydayer too. All you got to do is join us every single day. Let's run it down, man, and talk to you about what we got to talk to you on this nice Friday evening, the day before the stadium practice for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The bug has hit a little bit. I'll tell you the impact of that. We hate using the I word on the show, but the reality is, oh, well, that's where we are. So we're going to discuss that. Walker Little has a shot. I love saying Walker Little has a shot, and it's a big shot. I love using big and little in the same sentence when we talk about Walker Little. I'll tell you what that's all about. But we're going to start with practice in the stadium and what to watch for. I'm going to give you some things to look out for. Unfortunately, because the injury bug over the last few days has kind of gotten to the team a little bit, some of these things that I tell you to look out for, I've adjusted them because some of the people that I had in mind probably won't be out there playing tomorrow. They're probably going to go a little easy. In fact, I'm thinking that the overall part of practice, I believe based on what Doug Peterson said, and this is just me juxtaposing or extracting what I thought I heard. And what that is most of the time when you see them getting physical, it's going to be on the goal line stuff, because basically what he said was there ain't nowhere to practice goal line unless you're hitting for real. And I understand short, confined spaces, you got to tackle. There's no way around it. So I think other than that, they're really going to try to protect each other because the Jaguars are banged up. I'm going to go down the list real quick of things that I want you to watch out for. If you have not been to practice and you're going to take advantage of the fact that they're having an early Saturday practice in the stadium, a little more festive atmosphere, I guess. Here's what you look out for. The first thing that comes to mind that I want to tell y'all about is watch the difference between this year and in the past, especially in recent history. What you're going to see the defensive backs doing is going to kind of remind you of the 2017-2018 Jaguars, the way that they're playing. They're in your face, man. They're glued to you. They're following you around if you're a wide receiver. They're in your mug from the moment you break the huddle. You're dealing with them right there in your face. Now, they do play a little bit of bail technique sometimes, and they play a little bit off, but it's off man. But they're super, super aggressive with it, and they ain't going to let you just be running free doing whatever you want to do. Everywhere you go, and this is what I've noticed in practice, everywhere the wide receivers go, there's somebody within a close proximity. And even if the guys don't necessarily make an interception or bat the ball down, I believe this is going to be a situation where there is minimal yardage after the catch for a lot of teams. And we're really going to see that in week one. I keep talking about week one. If you're not here every day, I'm telling you, week one is just going to tell it a whole lot about this team when they play the Miami Dolphins. And they have a whole bunch of guys that if you don't get their hands on them, they might be running all the way from Miami to Jacksonville because they're fast. So it's going to be a very telling thing when you go to practice. I want you to watch that. I want you to see. Here's something else I want you to see. I want you to pay attention to. What I've noticed in training camp, and for the record, I'm not going to be an aggregator. I was not at training camp today, but I did call and make some calls to somebody who was at training camp. And so the reports I'm giving you are a collaboration between what I've seen when I've been at practice, which is most of them, versus what actually happened today. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the thing that I've noticed is ever since they really started putting the pads on and going a little bit more live, the rotations of the players, offensively and defensively. I think this is going to be something that continues throughout the year. It continues throughout the year. The way that they sound, at first I thought it was just something that the Jaguars were doing in practice just from an evaluation standpoint. But I honestly believe now, if I'm judging this correctly, that guys may have shown them more than they were expecting. And this may be something that a whole bunch of guys, I'll mention some of them, Christian Braswell, watch him, because I keep hearing his name come up. To be honest, I hadn't noticed him a lot in the days that I was at practice, but that might be a good thing because sometimes you only notice a DB when he does something wrong. The fact that I haven't noticed him and other people have, and they've brought it up. Rick Ballou actually brought it up to me at practice, the truth teller from here in Jacksonville. And now Doug Peterson is saying it. Peterson is saying he's one of those developmental guys. Basically, he's athletic. He's done all the right things. Another guy put in position to make this team and show the team what he has. I'm thinking that they are going to have their starters. They're going to have their core guys, right? But I believe that this rotation will continue because I think they have every intention of rotating the defensive line. The linebackers might be the dudes that rotate the least, but the defensive backs, I think there's some people that are always going to be on the field, especially when the game is close. Tyson Campbell, Ronald Darby, Savage, as long as he plays the nickel well in the slot. Because there were some people I saw, the CBS crew was there today. I missed my man Pete Prisco, who was in the house. And I was watching them where I was, and they were talking about they had a little bit of concern about Darnell Savage in the slot. They think he's more of a guy that needs to be in the middle of the field. The Jaguars' evaluation of him is that he can be a slot receiver. And this is one of the things that I always say about the eval period. When coaches are evaling or GMs and scouts are evaling dudes. I don't know if playing Darnell Savage in the slot is something that they saw on tape from Green Bay. I think them playing Darnell Savage in the slot is something that they saw when they evaluated him and had a book on him. And maybe they believe Green Bay used him wrong, or they feel like the best way to use him is to put him in a slot. Usually that's the way this works. People don't go out and pay people to do things that they haven't done. Sometimes in the draft, that's what happens, but not in the NFL. Usually in the NFL, they ain't going to pay you to come in here and do something that they're not going to pay you to do something they've never seen you do, right? Unless this is something that they thought you should have been doing all along. So that's one thing that I want you guys to watch as well. On the offense, we know who the top three receivers are, and I know that's where everybody wants to see, right? No, you need to watch 4, 5, 6, and 7. Because that's where a lot of the competition is. Who's going to be that dude? I did a Locked On NFL show. I do it every Friday. And I told David Harrison, the co-host, I said, I remember when Antonio Brown was a 6th-round pick. And I remember when Steve Smith was a rookie nobody heard of. And these guys started doing things in camp. They stuck around long enough, played special teams, and then both, in my opinion, had Hall of Fame type careers and credentials. AB being a first ballot Hall of Fame. He's one of the top 7 guys I've ever seen at the position. And Steve Smith never got his credit. But pound for pound, he's one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen also. It's stuff like that. And Brian Mitchell, who retired for the Washington franchise as having more yards from scrimmage and special teams than anybody in NFL history, right? I remember when he was a rookie. He ran kickoffs back for touchdowns, and he had a long, long, illustrious career with Washington. Those are the type of things that we want to see. Remember Allen Hurns here some years back, maybe a decade ago, when he came out as an undrafted free agent and he got loose and he played like the best receiver on the team. So that probably won't happen, but I still want y'all to go out and watch those things. One of the things that will be watched heavily is the offensive line against that defensive front. In particular, Walker Little, because Anton Harrison, according to Doug Peterson, is in a concussion protocol, and they were apparently Cam Robinson banged his shoulder up at some point. We don't know if it was a stinger. We don't know if it's something more serious than that. But my source, and I'll tell you who it is, Demetrius Harvey of Jacksonville.com, Florida Times-Union, the beat writer, told me he saw Cam throw his helmet in disgust. Guys usually throw the helmet when they know something ain't right. And Cam has had his injury problems where, and we all want him to need him to stay healthy. This puts the spotlight solely on Walker Little, maybe not just tomorrow, but also as we head into these other games that we have to deal with in the preseason and then in the regular season. This shows you why the Jaguars didn't follow my advice and some of the advice of other people and say, you need to trade him and get something for him while you can. Well, no, if you're trying to win, you ain't going to find a better third tackle that's going to be available because offensive tackles don't just walk around in the street. We're going to talk about Walker Little, what this shot means for him. As unfortunate it is that other guys are banged up, this is football, this is what happens. So now we have to talk about him and still some other players that I want to mention that I want you guys to watch out for. Get your roster sheets, get them ready, and go enjoy practice in the morning. Hopefully you got your tickets already. If you didn't, there's a protocol for doing that. Go to Jaguars.com and do that and try to get your tickets. It's free, but you still need tickets in order to get into the event. We'll talk about Walker Little and some other players in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. eBay Motors, man, if you're talking about football or you're talking about eBay Motors and your vehicle, these three things are very important: passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships and also what keeps your ride or die vehicle alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, second segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day, and we always thank you for making us your first listen. Walker Little has a shot to be big. There you go. I did it again. I always say I like to use the word little and big in the same sentence when I'm talking about Walker. He's from Texas, right? Everything's big in Texas. And he hopes his effort and his opportunity is big for him. Walker Little's in the final year of his contract after being drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 2021 draft. Same draft as Trevor Lawrence, same draft as Travis Etienne, Tyson Campbell, and Andre Sisco. All four guys that I anticipate the Jaguars have either re-signed them or I anticipate they will get a second contract here in Jacksonville. If two of them have already and two of them I think are on deck to do that, he would be the one that is a first or second day pick. If he doesn't re-sign, he'd be the one that they don't. And even if they picked him 45th overall, even if he doesn't re-sign with the Jaguars, that draft right now is still going to be considered a good draft. He could make it an over-the-top, very good to great draft, especially if everyone plays up to their potential, if he's re-signed. He also could give the Jaguars a long-term answer at one of those tackle spots because Cam Robinson is in the last year of his contract. And once again, Cam's possibly banged up. We don't know how serious it is. So what that means is Cam's getting older. Cam can't stay healthy. The team will have to figure out something at the end of the year. If you ask me, I think Cam Robinson is going to play his last year with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Walker Little has a shot to make sure that the Jaguars don't use draft capital going out and replacing him or going out in free agency, which I doubt they do after they've made it very, very clear that what they are at this point is a draft and develop team. But he has to give them a canvas, something that they can see, something that's tangible. And they like him. If they didn't like him, he wouldn't be here and they would have traded him, right? They're developing him. They like him. One of the things I heard about Walker Little early when he got here is that he plays with his hands too low. And he tries to get them up, and sometimes he gets caught with his hands and almost like his elbows attached to his love handle area, and they don't want that. Offensive line coaches want that extension, and they want you to get your hands and deliver that blow And it seems like he's gotten a little bit better at it. Watch it tomorrow. Watch it during the scrimmage, or I don't really want to call it a scrimmage, but the stadium practice, if you will. If you're out there, watch him intently, because I think he's going to get a lot of snaps. Now, I don't know if they're going to be going heavy pass pro, allowing the guys to go as live as they possibly would have been going. Maybe had guys not gotten banged up, or if that was their intent in the first place. But they do need to start getting some hitting in before they have those joint practices with Tampa leading up to the game, or with Kansas City. They have Kansas City next week, and then the joint practices after that. They need to start getting greased up, man. They need to start getting greased up and getting ready to hit. You can't avoid getting hit, and you can't try to go around it, and you can't skate around it. The bottom line is, at some point, you got to trust that guys are going to be able to stay healthy. But watching him against Joshua Hines Allen, and Trayvon, is, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal tomorrow. So that is something that I want to see. Also, watch, if Cam doesn't go, watch who they play opposite. Walker Little at tackle. Will it be Javon Foster? Will it be the rookie? Will it be Blake Hance? Who will it be? Who are they going to put out there? And it'll give you some idea of the depth chart and what they're thinking right now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Make sure you keep your eye on that. But Walker Little can do some big stuff here. He could really make this team super, super confident if he's given extended opportunities throughout this preseason. He can make them super, super confident of his ability. He is a very important player. You want to keep people off Trevor Lawrence, right? And he's going to be, this isn't a situation where Luke Fortner just wasn't strong enough to battle the guys in front of him. Walker Little's going to deal with a whole bunch of stuff. Last year, he dealt with it very well when he was given the opportunity, but he also got banged up. The only thing I question about Walker is the running game a little bit. I don't necessarily question his ability to pass block, because we've seen him do that, and he did it, I think, better. I think saying that it was adequate is a little bit of an understatement. I think he's a lot better. He played a lot better than just, the way it was. Now, Cam was going to start when he came back off of his PED suspension last year. They were going to put him back in the lineup because he makes too much money. It didn't help that Walker got banged up, though, because I wanted to see what it was like for him to at least be available to hold off Cam Robinson and see how the team played it, because it would allow me to know exactly what they were thinking. But alas, here we are. And if anybody thinks that they don't like Walker Little, you're wrong. But also, there has to be some reasonable level of skepticism, because they drafted Anton Harrison. They re-signed Cam Robinson. They haven't let Cam Robinson go. We were all told that Walker could play guard and tackle. They go out and get Ezra Cleveland. They don't pay Ezra Cleveland a whole lot of money, if you really look at the deal. They re-signed Ezra Cleveland instead of just saying, okay, Walker, we're going to give you a shot at left guard, because they could have used that money somewhere else. People can say they love you all they want, but maybe they just like you a lot. They may not love you as much. And I think folks got confused with Walker Little, because they were saying, well, he can play guard, he can play either side, and he can play tackle, he can play both sides. There's 5 positions on the offensive line. They said he could play 4 of them. Being able to play all of those different positions doesn't mean you're a great player. It just means that you're a dude that can play all 4 positions. So sometimes we get confused with that when we're talking about players. But he has his shot to shut me up, shut everybody up. It's unfortunate because guys are banged up with the 2 starters, but this is what it is. It's next man up football. So Walker Little, man up. It's your turn. All right, I'm going to man up, but I'll tell you this, man. Locked On has launched the first ever free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming that you hear on ESPN and Fox Sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I mentioned those injuries, man, and y'all, if you're not familiar with my podcast here on Locked On Jaguars, I hate saying that word. I call it the I word. But once it happens, you got to go ahead and say it. Don't try to be all deep with it, right? Well, here we go. I'm going to run down some injuries give you as much information, which isn't very much, but I'm going to tell you how I feel about it, and I hope this trend does not continue. We'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Not before we tell you about today's sponsor, which is FanDuel. That's right, man. I am a huge FanDuel guy, and I know you should be too. The thing about it is, you got baseball, but I usually like mixing all of these different sports up, right? That's when the sports are sporting the way I want them to, if you know what I mean. It's not sporting like that right now, but that's all right because FanDuel will let you keep the sports going whenever you want to. All you got to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime. And here's what happens. This summer, like right now, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. I'll tell you again, a boost or a bonus daily. There is something for everyone every day, all summer long. Now, I'm going to tell you something about baseball. Don't just pay attention to the starters. You have to look at the bullpen. You have to look at the middle relievers, and you have to look at the closers. And if you do that, you should have what you need to make an informed decision on who's going to win. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Third and final segment, I almost choked. Third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. Yeah, I almost choked. That would have been, everybody said, man, you need some help with editing. No, you're going to get it raw. This is what you get. I'm talking about the podcast. You are going to get all of this stuff. I try to do this live. I got a radio background. So unless I cough or accidentally say a curse word or something or read the wrong ad, y'all going to get it raw. I'm going to give it to you straight with no chases. So you see me about to choke, you can pick at me and tell me, man, you choked on the podcast. Yep. I don't know what it could be, but whatever it is, we're going to get it out of the way because we're going to talk about these injuries, man. All right, so one of the big signings in free agency this offseason was Eric Armstead, big 6'7", 290 some odd, Calais Campbell lookalike. That's going to be our 3 technique as well as playing a little 4-eye, maybe on the outside and being a mentor to everyone, just like the mayor of Jacksonville was. We ain't seen him too much because he's on the PUP list. He can't even do a lot of live stuff and running around and all that, but he's been on the sideline. They don't know when he's coming back, but they think he's working his way towards it. Doug Peterson said it could be a week, it could be 3 weeks, but that he's headed in the right direction. So eventually he'll make his presence known. In my opinion, I don't think we're going to see him. And it makes all the sense in the world. If he was here for a week, the only thing they could be probably trying to do is get him in game shape, but I wouldn't even mess around with it, man, in the preseason. And maybe give him 4 or 5 snaps in the 3rd preseason game. But other than that, man, whatever it is, I think they can get through the early part of the season with him being a little rusty and then just let him catch up. He's a veteran. He understands how it works. He knows the flow. He knows the workflow. He knows how to get himself prepared and get ready to play. He's too valuable, in my opinion, to send him out there in a game that really doesn't matter. So he's one guy. Dewey Wingard, a dude that had been a star the first week of training camp, and is the guy that everybody keeps writing off, and he keeps writing himself right back into the situation. And you love the scrappiness, and you love the approach. You love the fact that his teammates love him, right? But Dewey's got a knee problem, and he's going to be out for an extended period of time. They don't actually know how much. They got to get with the medical staff, according to Doug Peterson. And can they overcome it? Dewey's a very, very valuable player on special teams, and he's a very, very nice depth piece to have because he's had a lot of production for this team, and he was having a really, really good camp. He's like one of those spirit animals for the team. That's what he is. He's like, I can't describe it, but it's almost as if he personifies Duval County and he personifies where we want our Jacksonville Jaguars to be. He's like the Yurkovich, if y'all remember way back in the day. Some of y'all might be too young to remember that, but he's just that dude. He's that motivational, that dude that everyone on the team respects. So we hope that he can get back in time. From the sound of it, though, I don't know if we're going to see Dewey in the preseason anymore. Andrew Wingard is his real name. We call him Dewey. I don't know if we're going to see him anymore. Anton Harrison, we mentioned him earlier when we were talking about Walker Little. Anton Harrison, concussion protocol. You know how that works, right? The thing about the concussion protocol, and I don't see a lot of linemen get concussions because they aren't really like they're confined in tight spaces. So getting knocked in the head unless, it's some linebacker trying to come separate you from your senses or knock you off your line. Normally, those big dudes don't really get those concussions like that, but he's in the concussion protocol. The thing about the protocol is you want to make sure he is totally out of it and he's fine. You don't want to get enough, right? Concussions are more and more dangerous as they pile up, and then it becomes a serious, serious problem. So Anton Harrison, I think, is one of the better under 25-year-old. I know he's in the top 10 of guys that are 25 years old in the league, in my opinion. I don't know about everybody else, but in my opinion, he's one of those dudes. They need him back. They need him back, especially with Cam Robinson having a possible shoulder problem. And then Cam Robinson has a little bit of a history of getting banged up. I ain't going to call him a name or anything like that. I ain't going to say he's fragile. Nah, he's a big physical dude that probably goes hard at it, and it creates opportunities and situations where he gets banged up. But those are the key ones that I want to mainly discuss. Also, I wrote this one down. Patrick Murtaugh, if you hear any interviews where players were talking about it's tough and it's the nature of the business and the injury, I heard Patrick Murtaugh hurt his ankle, and it was not a nice sight. And guys just don't want to see their teammates who go out there and put it on the line. And Murtaugh was actually a dude that I said if they kept a fourth tight end, I thought it would be him. And now he's battling and banged up. Looks like something that's going to take him out for an extended period of time. So yeah, the Jags are a little bit banged up. We were talking about how they had avoided that the first week and a half, especially with other teams around the division getting guys suspended. All three teams in the AFC South, other than the Jaguars, had guys who weren't going to be available for the start of the season for various reasons. So therefore, I was quote tweeting stuff all week saying, oops. Well, now, even though the Jags didn't get in any trouble for things off the field, they still have guys that may or may not be available. So it's likely that the Jaguars will not start the season off with the greatest of health. While that is, there's nothing super significant, we still want to keep things to a little bit of a limit when it comes to that. I think the phrase that I keep hearing the players and the coaches say is, we're still going to protect ourselves from ourselves, and we're basically going to look out for each other like we're making contact and we got to get greased up and we got to get ready. But we also understand that's your teammate and we're not trying to put them out of commission. So you can be physical without being violent, and you can also be physical without being combative. So those are the things that are on my mind before the stadium practice tomorrow. Make sure you hit me up on social media, wherever that is, and tell me if I helped you out with some guys that I want you to look for. Watch the secondary. I believe the secondary, especially when you're talking about the second and third units, that's where a lot of the competition lies. There are a lot of dudes. They had Monteric Buster Brown. They had Christian Braswell. Thomas is still back there at safety. Antonio Johnson is back there. They have guys trying to hold off people, right? They made new additions. You add Darnell Savage, you add Jarian Jones to that secondary, you add Ronald Darby. Well, those dudes ain't going nowhere, right? So you already had the guys you had last year, and then you add those guys, and then you had the guys that are in development. There are a lot of places. They got a veteran, Trey Flowers. They went and brought in a lot of people to up the competition. Kudos to the Jaguars for not resting on their laurels and bringing in serious competition for these guys, as opposed to thinking you got your starters and then we'll just get a few little backups just in case somebody. No, these dudes got guys in camp that when they start trimming their roster down, a lot of these players are going to find homes somewhere else. A lot of football has been played by a lot of these dudes. Watch that secondary tomorrow too. So practice at the stadium. We went over the injury bug and then walk a little. We are watching. All of that here on Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you check it out. Have a nice weekend and take care of yourself before you leave. I want to thank you for making Locked On Jaguars your first listen. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. The Draft Dudes is what it's called, with Joe Marino and Kyle Krabs, two of the absolute best in the business. And I'm not just biased because they work for Locked On. I absolutely mean that. They take you inside the front office, make you a smarter NFL fan every single day. Stay up to date on training camp and positional battles as the season draws near. Locked On NFL Scouting is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Say it with me. It's your team every day. I am Tony Wiggins, and hosting this podcast every day is my absolute pleasure, giving you all the things you need, everything Jacksonville Jaguar. Make sure you have a nice weekend. Enjoy practice. Take care of yourself, and we will see you. If there's any other big updates, I will be updating on social media as well as on our YouTube page with some updated shorts. Make sure you check that out. Go back and listen to past episodes too. It's all right there for you at Locked On Jaguars. All right, you guys take care of each other. We'll see you next time.